Okay, so sometimes it's hard to find that significant other one. And so that would be a disadvantage of sexual reproduction here on the last page of our notes, is because it takes two. Okay. Now, in the process of finding that mate, it is very energy costly. So think of those males, they have to fight each other off. A lot of males in nature are really brightly colored, and it takes energy to create those really pretty feathers that are attracted to the female. In this one, I'm going to show you here, these birds aren't going to fight it out, they're going to dance it out. And so the flamingos, how they find a mate is they have to outdance one another. And so they end up in this little group, and the females are basically picking the best dancers. And so this is energy costly. And then where we kind of got cut off there is sometimes whenever they're putting themselves out there to be noticed, they're getting noticed by their predators. And then they can be killed in the process of just trying to find a mate. That's what happens in deer season, right? So it takes more energy to find mates, to fight off, to be selected, and so on. Okay. It also takes more time because you have to find a mate, because you have to do the deed, because you have to grow offspring. Speaking of growing offspring, I wanted to talk about my former boss here, the principal at my last school. And one of the first things that we learned about him is that Dr. Snodgrass had quadruplets. So wrap your mind around going to a doctor and you think that, you're pregnant with one child, and the doctor comes in and says, well, surprise, you're going to have 4 babies at once. Okay. Dr. Snodgrass mentioned that on the ride home from the doctor's office, when they found out, him and his wife on that 50-minute drive didn't even say a word to one another. They were in so much shock from learning that information. Okay. But anyway, I wanted to point out something. All right. Now this is not Dr. Snodgrass's wife. Okay. But this is a lady, she's pregnant with triplets at 10 weeks. She's got 30 more weeks to go, people. And look how big she is. Okay. So she's only a fourth of the way in, and she has triplets. So imagine, his wife is going to have quadruplets. Okay. Now, one of the most important and the first piece of advice that doctor told her before they left that first doctor's visit is he says, as of this point right now, I need you to consume as many calories as you possibly can. I need you to, if you want to eat Pizza Hut 4 times a day, if you want to, eat fatty foods, if you want to eat ice cream every single meal, candy, whatever, he goes, we need you to consume as much food as you possibly can. Okay. Now at that time, her babies were so big. I mean, you couldn't even see them with the just looking at them. That's how small the embryos were at that time. Okay. And so at that time, they don't need as much energy. But whenever the babies get bigger, so let's say she's around 4 months, she would not be able to eat enough food to actually provide energy for herself and her developing babies. So that's why at the beginning, even when she didn't need all of that energy right then and there to grow them, she could eat enough to grow them. Pretty soon, the energy demand to grow them was going to exceed what she would physically be capable of doing. She could eat all day long, and she still probably wouldn't be taking in enough energy to feed them like what she got to that 4 month and 5 month and 6 month mark. Okay. So this again just kind of emphasizes the idea it takes a lot of energy to sexually reproduce. So guys, whenever your wife like pokes you at 3 a.m. in the morning and says, I need Sonic, by golly, you're going to get up and you're going to go to Sonic and you're going to order 2 of everything, because that woman needs some energy right then and there to grow your future child. Okay. All right. Now we're going to play a little bit of a game, and it's kind of nice that I can see you, that you guys have your cameras on to play this game. Okay. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off a characteristic. If you have that characteristic, then you're dead. And you're going to put your hand icon up on your screen so I can figure out who is living and who is dead. Okay? All right, you ready? Okay, here we go. If you can't roll your tongue like this, if you can't roll your tongue, you're dead. Put your hand up if you died. You can put your little hand icon up, okay? Awesome. Okay, if you are double jointed anywhere, like in your fingers or whatever, you're dead. Okay, if you have blue eyes, you're dead. If you have dimples, you're dead. Oh, okay, I do have a few survivors. If you have a hitchhiker's thumb, do you see my thumb? See how it goes backwards? That's called a hitchhiker's thumb. So if your thumb points backwards like this, you're dead. If it's mostly straight up and down, you can still stay alive. Okay.
Like this?
Yeah, you can stay alive. You can stay alive. You're good. Okay. So let's pause where we're at. Say your name if you are still alive. Okay. Congratulations. Some of us survived all these changes in the environment that took out people that had certain traits. Okay. So that brings us to the advantages of sexual reproduction is because we have so much variation in our population because we sexually reproduce. So sexual reproduction creates populations with lots of genetic variation, then that is an advantage for our population because in a changing environment, some of us are likely to survive. Okay, so populations that reproduce sexually create offspring with so many different variant traits. If there's a change in environment, then not all of that population is usually going to die. So let's kind of relate that to COVID, right? Some of you have had COVID and you survived it. Unfortunately, there's some people out there with different traits and they don't survive COVID. But the human population is going to continue on because we sexually reproduce. We have variation in our population, okay? 1918, we all didn't die out in that pandemic because, again, people have different traits. We have genetic variations that allow some people to not be affected as badly by a virus, okay? Here's a situation where, if you think about this, is crazy. 6 million bats have been killed by this fungus just in North America. But are they all extinct? No, because there's some bats that this fungus, you can see that white powder on his nose, it doesn't affect them that badly. They're able to survive and their immune system can actually clear the fungus, all right? And so populations, that's an advantage to populations that can reproduce sexually, is that if the environment changes, then some of you are going to have traits that are going to help you survive, okay? All right, so let's kind of go back up to the top here. And it's basically the opposite. So this box says advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction. And you, if you know the disadvantages down here to sexual, then you should know the advantages to asexual. Okay, so if a disadvantage to sexual is it takes more time, then that's one of the advantages to asexual reproduction is that it takes less time. Remember bacteria? Those suckers can divide every, I guess I don't have that video up, like every 20 minutes, right? And it takes less energy because you don't have to find a mate. You don't have to develop these attractive features, which are energy costly. You don't have to dance around. You don't have to fight off someone. So it takes less energy because with asexual reproduction, like binary fission, which bacteria do, it only takes one parent, okay? Now, if the environment is non-changing, then populations that reproduce asexually have an advantage, okay? So let's think about this. Let's say that you stay in your room all day long. That's a pretty non-changing environment, right? Is the population of your room going to increase in 24 hours? No, it's just going to be you. Is the population of bacteria in your room changing? Yes, it's going up. You can go wash your hands and just leave a couple bacteria on there. And then in 24 hours, you'll have over 1 billion, okay? Because they can reproduce so quickly. As long as the environment is non-changing, it's okay to all be the same because there's nothing that's going to happen that's going to wipe you all out. Okay. But if there's a change in environment, then that's going to be bad. So populations like asexually reproducing populations that have no genetic variation, they do not survive well in a changing environment. They do great in a non-changing environment, but not in a changing environment. Okay. All right. I think we pretty much have everything done that needs to be done in our note packet. All right. The next thing I'm going to have you guys do is I just want to refresh you on lab table numbers because you guys are going to go into breakout rooms. So while I'm pulling up this lab table chart, I want you guys to go to Google Classroom for me. Sorry, everything got shut down, so I have to open it back up. All right, so just for reference here, is where Trevin sits. That is lab table number 2. Okay, so the one closest to my teacher desk, that's 1. So think about where you sit. If you are at lab table 7, lots of times I move you guys to a different lab table. So you're going to pick some lab table 1 through 6. Okay, and I don't care which one it is. All right. So once you know your lab table number, we're going to make our way to Google Classroom. And in the classwork tab at the top is where you have those breakout rooms links. I don't want you to go there yet because let me tell you what you're going to do. Remind me, because I believe you guys last class did you guys finish the comparison matrix? Okay. All right. So one thing to note is I'm going to put the answer key to this here in Google Classroom. So if you want to practice with this on your own to review before your test on Friday, then you have that available to you. Okay. But since you guys have already done that, some of my other classes hadn't done that yet, then you guys are going to get to your Google Meets and you're going to choose. And this is what you're going to choose between. Make sure I'm presenting. Yeah. So this is where you're going to choose between. You guys can open up and share a learning target document. I've had some students, they will share one of these and they all type on it. And so then they're filling out these answers and kind of working together to come up with a test review document. One thing that I really want to encourage you though, do not study anyone's answer that they put down there unless another student verified it. Okay. And I like to have you guys put like your initials, like this is verified by M. Spencer. That is a good answer to study. Sometimes you guys type in answers and they're not correct. So you want at least 2 people one to type up an answer and another one to verify it before you consider that something good to study for your test. Okay. So you guys can choose to work on that, or you're going to see here in Google Classroom, you guys have this Edulastic Assessment. Now it is different from the one that you guys took last time. Okay, there's some questions that are the same, but the majority of the questions are different questions and it's over the whole unit. Last time I didn't have anything on there about this last learning target box, okay? So what you can do is click on that. One person can present their screen and you guys can fill it out together and make sure you understand, why we're selecting what we're selecting and answering what we're answering, okay? Regardless of what you do, there needs to be one person in each room presenting what you guys are working on. Because when I come through, I check what you have done so far and I let you know if there's anything that's incorrect, okay? Any questions? All right. So we'll go to our breakout room and pick either Edulastic or learning targets. Someone present. I'll see you there in just a little bit.